Mark it, open mind, not empty mind. With enthusiasm. We work with you here. I have been here for the last 10 years. I'm in my 11th year in the National Assembly. And you have been, to say the least, partners in the success or failures, if any, of the National Assembly. As the Fourth Estate, you occupy a very strategic position in the affairs of any country, in the art of governance. And I therefore respond to this, your invitation, in that spirit. But those of you who are familiar with me, if it's a weakness, it's my weakness. I will take it. If you ask me a question, I'll give you an answer. That's the deal. And that's the rule of engagement. So try as much as possible to show the ethics, the etiquette of the Fourth Estate. And I'll owe you a fundamental duty to respond to you in that same spirit. That is the rule of engagement. I hope I'm clear. I hope I'm very clear on that. Thank you very much. Now, responding to the first question. Yes, you are absolutely right. When I read about the meeting of the Southern governors on the issue of open grazing and how they kicked against it and threatened to make laws, I responded to them in a manner like you recalled. I wasn't happy with it. And I believe as governors, as members of the executive, operating only at a different tier of government than the federal government, they have a constitutional responsibility, the constitution to which they swore when they are taken oath of office. One of the fundamental provisions there is the fact that every Nigerian, every Nigerian, no exception, has a right of free movement. Every Nigerian has a right of pursuing his legitimate business without hindrance. Right of association, like we're doing now with you, is enshrined in the Constitution. You cannot, under any pretense, take that authority from the person. I don't know of any situation in which government says, yes, you can take this right away from the individual. So one day I came up with this, I was wondering, first and foremost, before their meeting, a week earlier than the date of that meeting, they had met here, the governors had met here in Abuja. And there was no such pronouncement from them. I was taken aback when I read about their meeting in Asaba, threatening, the issues that they raised. I still stand by that. The fact that a governor or two in the north have said something similar does not take away the right of the herdsman. The question here is, nature abhors vacuum. You can't put something on nothing. The duty to protect the herdsman and the farmer rests squarely on the table of the national government, the state government, and the local government administration. The question to ask is, have the government done what it is supposed to do to protect the Nigerians who are in that calling, in that profession, in that trade? I would say no. My answer is no. And you cannot blame a person who is desperate, who is looking for a means of livelihood, from going to pursue legitimate goals. However, this does not excuse anybody in the course of exercising his right, doing harm to somebody else's right. I must be very clear on this. A farmer has right to farm. If you dare take your cattle or animals or whatever you're calling, and you run into his farm and do him damage, he has a right to claim. And he can claim the cost of law. That is the law as I understand it. So it doesn't matter. If all the northern governors will echo the same pronouncement that the southern governors did, that does not shake my fundamental position on this. Government owes these herdsmen a duty to protect their calling. And I dare repeat that if you go to Wuse Market here, or any of the big markets in Abuja, you will see how people how federal government has provided Abuja municipal councils and the federal ministry of what do you call it? Of the FCT, Federal Capital Territory. How many or how much infrastructure investment is there? You have corner shops all over the place. You go into the market, the roads are tarred, there's electricity, there's water supply, there are conveniences for toilets. These are for Nigerians. These herdsmen are Nigerians. The government has the same duty that they owe these businessmen in Lagos, in market, in Alaba, in Onitsha, in Kano, wherever. They owe that duty to the herdsman too, because he's a Nigerian. And these provisions are from public funds. They are from the private pocket of any governor or president or senator. They are monies from the treasury of this country. And every Nigerian has a stake in that treasury. So the government has a duty to find a wherewithal to make it possible or impossible for the herdsman to go astray in the course of his legitimate living. Where, of course, he does go astray and offends some other Nigerian, he has cause to the law of the land.
Second, no. I already have the last question. Distinguished sir, as a rider to the question.
You keep riding, I don't ride them.
As a rider to the question.
Blueprint.
Yes, blueprint. My colleague first asked. What about modernization? Yes, you have said it that constitution all Nigerians, free movement and legitimate business. But this idea of moving cattle from one place to the other in other part of the world, I think another system, all ranching, have been adopted. What is your take on that? And my own question now, in 2 weeks' time, sir, Nigeria will be 61 years old. As an elder statesman, who has seen it all, and then I say who has seen it all, what I mean is that.
No, I probably have seen more than you have, but I've not seen it all.
Okay, you have seen more than me.
Yeah.
You were an adult when the country got independence. And to the glory of God.
The first leg of your question is to do with modernization. Yes, you have to distinguish between corporate modernization effort, government modernization effort, and the individual's modernization effort. No matter how modern a herdsman's thinking is, he cannot build the kind of roads that will ensure safety of the passage with his animals without doing harm to the farmer. No matter how developed we want to be, we must develop along the lines of due process. The question that one asks is this: you talk about modernization. Yes. For heaven's sake, is it the fault of the herdsman that until today, the 21st century, he is left at the mercy of moving his cattle the only way he has now, through routes in the bush till today. While in the modern world you're talking about, I have seen it, there are trucks that they convey animals. On the truck, there's water supply in it. They have water. In the truck, that's where they can feed in trough, in the carrier. Okay? And where there's waste, there's somebody in the truck that would push until they get to a point where they can empty it from the vehicle. Do we have that? If we do have in this country, how many do you know? Have you seen? So the fact remains that you cannot punish any calling, trade calling, any means of economic pursuit. You cannot rest the evil on the poor Nigerian. You rest in the laps of the government. The government has a duty. And I've said so time and time and again, I repeat here, the duty is that of the governor. But somehow, that of the government, sorry, somehow we have misdirected our political thinking and our political activism. We have refused, through unnecessary parochialism, we have refused to differentiate between genuine problems this country faces and face the problems and solve them collectively with the direction of the government. Rather than do so, no, we're looking for fault lines. We're looking for fault lines only. This is a national problem. We have to put our heads together and see how best government can fund whatever there is, whatever means there is, that we can modernize the things that we call problems today, and when there's operations, we minimize problems of, we can minimize the happenings, the incidents that accrue as a result of the inefficiencies or insufficiencies in the infrastructure development for the various economic callings. You see, at the risk of ringing the bell of deliberate misunderstanding, if you can protect a spare part dealer, yes, if you can protect a spare parts dealer, why can't you protect a husband? If banks, private banks, would be rescued, government will come in with public funds through a central bank or whatever to rescue failing banks. With public, central government money is government money. So your money is my money. Why do that? I cannot do that to rescue the husband from the problem he has to do. There are some questions we need to ask ourselves. When I was growing, they said to me, when you look at somebody and say, yeah, you be shaky. You see that? You be shaky. Only one finger is pointing at you, maybe two. The three are pointing at me. So there's nothing wrong with modernization. I am all for it. But that is to add voice to the hues and cries already on the floor for government to address the issue of herdsmen. Last month or so, I was involved, I got to a program in my state, in a political way, in Bauri, where this livestock development effort started. There are 4 states who have indicated willingness to queue in, and through the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, federal government will do everything possible in that, and the state government is collaborating. Often, we see the herdsman's problem as Buhari's problem, as federal government problem. It is not entirely that of the federal government. Federal government has a lead role to show, can pilot, but every tier of government has a duty. The state governor has funds from the common, revenue mobilization. They have the share. That's part of that share that's given to the state is take care of some of these problems. They have their responsibilities. Agriculture is somehow in the concurrent. It is the list. The state government has duty. Even local governments have duty. So you don't just rest it on the federal government. I take that, I accept that only to the extent The federal government will show the way. Will show the way. Modernization is necessary. Nobody will say anything against it. But let us not just pile the whole blame and throw it on one tier of government. Your second question is on the independence. Well, let's congratulate ourselves that we are alive, and all of us here have got callings. Nobody here is an applicant, I'm sure. And we are happy, we are grateful to Almighty God that we are among the Nigerians who are living. Some of us are 6 foot down between the independent period and now. So those of us who are alive, we must be grateful to Allah for sparing our lives and to ensuring for us that we enjoy some good health, for us to sit and have this exchange, between me and your good selves. On the issue of the journey so far, yes, I would say, so far, so good. So far, so good. You can't run away from one thing. Yes, we have had governments. That's why it's the critical minds amongst us here would say, oh yes, it's supposed to be government. No. Good governance, yes. Government provides leadership. Government sets the trail. And every one of us here has a duty to ensure that good governance works. I'll give you one little example. What do you do as a Nigerian, an adult, a journalist, a senior media man for that matter, when you are driving and you see somebody breaking traffic law? You just smile and look the other way. You want Buhari to come and make sure he doesn't do it? Every Nigerian is a law officer of some sort. You see a wrong, you stop it. You see somebody going on the verge of being corrupt, you owe a duty to you, to your fellow Nigerian, to ensure that that stops. It's not a struggle for the head of state, the president, to pursue alone. If you find projects in your constituency, your local government, your state, and for years it's not being complete, you have a duty to call attention of government, whether state government or local government, so that your voice will go to the appropriate quarter, and that gets attention. But everybody sees government business as nobody's business. When there is failure staring us in the eye, then the ones with guts will raise their voice to criticize government. I said very, very selectively, or very, very deliberately, carefully, that yes, we've made meaningful progress. I'm privileged to say this because I was already, in 1960, I was an adult. I celebrated my 75th birthday on the 23rd of July. If I go by the Islamic calendar, I am not 75, I'll be 77 plus some months. So I have seen from Independence Day, I was already in secondary school. I can read, I could read, I could write, I could comprehend. I think we sometimes turn our backs at the areas of progress we made in this country. We tend to emphasize and talk only about the negativities in our journey. Every country has had try moments. But if I may just give you little examples for you just to take a look at. Even at your own age, the average age here, I would say, let's say 30. The girl should forgive me, please, for saying 30. I say average, average, 30. Any one of you at the age of 30, if he's familiar with his state, can count areas where there have been progress. Those of you who are up to 50 will also count, probably they will have more to see and more to count. And those who are in my age group, You ditto. All right? The thing is, I'll ask you, how many airports were there in Nigeria in 1960? Airports. Domestic airports. How many international airports were there in Nigeria in 1960? How many seaports were there in Nigeria in 1960? How many are there now? How many universities are there in Nigeria in 1960? How many do we have now? How many polytechnics do we have? How many colleges of education do we have in 1960? How many do we now have? How many hospitals, general hospitals, did we have in 1960? How many special, what do you call them? Specialist hospitals did we have in 1960? How many do we have now? Go down. How many secondary schools were in your state? What is now your state? In 1960, how many secondary schools do you have? How many do you have now? How many trunk A roads? Trunk A roads do we have in 1960? How many do we have now? How do you measure progress? Do you measure progress by just the banditry or by Boko Haram occurrences in Nigeria? We have a way of always comparing ourselves with some other places. Yes, it's a natural phenomenon. We all tend to do so. But the fact remains, Nigeria is not Ghana. Nigeria is not Sierra Leone. Nigeria is not Central African Republic. Nigeria is Nigeria. We have a population of not less than 200 million people. No African country that I know has that population to feed. Yes, we failed here and there in terms of managing things and the rest of it, even at government level. I admit this. I admit this. But let us not aggregate those samples here and there of what you can see as measurable failure as a failure of the whole country. No country, no matter how civilized, no matter how good the economy is, has no failings. See what's happening in America. They are a democracy. Are we more democratic than they are? Are we more civilized than they are? The education is their own education. The culture is their own culture. We still see cracks of failure. Till today, how many years after the abolition of slave trade to bring humanity equality, people are still talking of somebody being black, somebody being white? Is it in this country? Why don't we see those things? Why don't we point at them so that they can see also people like you in your generation? You've seen failures on their side too. Every time that's accusing finger of failure is to us. We are not being fair to ourselves. And this failure, look, I've celebrated 75, and it's in the Islamic balance I'm 77 plus now. Okay? My hope is that my children, and I have children, will have a future in Nigeria. That's my hope. And when I hope that for my children, I have the same hope for you. For you. My hope is I will leave this world for my younger ones, my children. Just as I feel the same way for you. So I feel a sense of responsibility and duty to talk to government in a manner that government will understand me as a friend of government, not as an enemy of government. When we start shouting on rooftops, hey. Some of the people with the strongest voices criticizing government, we tried them. They failed. Some of them were given chief executives of some organizations in this country. They opened the accounts of those organizations in their own personal accounts. Those of you who are old enough. If you doubt that, you keep me, I'll tell you the name. I don't want to put you people in a crisis, but we have them. And they are the staunchest critics of government. So please, let us abandon these parts of we are a failure. We are not a failure. Nigeria is not a failure. This government has not failed. When you see a system that cannot nib a crisis at formative period, then the chances are everyone that comes along the line, the generation, will inherit it. If a family, head of a family, father and mother have leprosy, and they didn't treat the leprosy, then you come as the person next in the estate, the chances are you will suffer the same medical problem. The same way. No Nigerian problem started with this government, with the Buhari administration. Not one of them started during this time. Maybe as we move on, the problem has become more and more pronounced than before. I cannot deny that. There's more banditry today than there was at independence. There have been more problems with Boko Haram over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years than there ever was at independence. But I first heard of Boko Haram way back about 1980-81, when I was secretary of MPN. I went to Kano. I remember they had to raise a special military force to go and dislodge them in Kano. They happened in Maiduguri. They happened in Bolunkutu or something like that. So if you are old enough, verify your papers. So there's nothing today that is new. There are only new occurrences. Maybe they were overwhelmed with fire, they went underground, they've resurfaced. All right? We used to read terrorism before, or see it in television like a joke. We are with it now. It didn't start here. And it may not end here. Okay, let's tighten our seatbelts and face the reality of our situation, our age. I hope I've answered your second question.
The third person is very independent.
I'm not hearing you well.
How close are about the insecurity in the country? So it's a statement of fact that Nigeria is dying as a result of security.
Nigeria is what?
I said Nigeria is dying as a result of security.
Let's thank God we're alive here.
Thank God for our life.
Very good.
Kidnapping and other vices. So as a lawmaker, what do you think is the best method to address this?
You see, sometimes, with all respect, sometimes you put these questions say a lot. It talks about the state of your own mind, the person asking the question. Fortunately, when I was talking to your chairman, he happened to know I was once a media man. I had my own paper. Sometimes when a guy asks me a question, I put a scale in his mind, in my mind, where you see, I just said a while ago, I said, no problem that we face today is alien to the coming into being of this government. These problems have come over the years. They've developed over the years. Naturally, no person will come to government or seek election and tell you, I don't have capacity to solve these problems. Nobody will say so in a campaign. Not because it's being dishonest, but because it is not ready to say so. If people have a problem, they look for somebody who will come and help solve that problem. The insecurity started with Boko Haram. Metes Ine. And I'm sure you were born then. I'm just sure you were born. Looking at you, I know you're over 40 now, or you're around 40 plus. Or plus or minus 40. Abba? Yeah, you are married and you have a son already, or a baby, or a girl, or both. All right? So, the fact is, you can only hope to minimize the problem. We have said time and time and again that this problem is not just a matter of making the law. The laws are there. If you are old enough in your assignment from your media house to this National Assembly, we've had roundtables on security. Abi? And some of you were there. We had it with the Air Force, something. Okay? And we came up with recommendations. And we gave government. That's the bit we can do. And maybe when we go to our constituencies as elected persons, to see how we can help in the advocacy, in the enlightenment effort for the citizenry to understand where we are coming from, where we are, and where we are going. That much, every senator, every man in the House of Reps is doing that. But the fact of the matter is, when you are faced with some kind of situation where you cannot place it, is it conventional warfare we're faced with the adversaries of government? Or is it guerrilla warfare, hit and run? Each of them has got different approaches in stamping them out. And that is exactly what is happening. We have had changes in the military commands. The president did not hesitate. You read in the papers almost every day, you publish it, what he says. When he has meetings, security meetings, you publish in your papers what he says in the media houses, electronic media. You say so. But you not only say it, believe it, propagate it. That's the essence. Because here is a dual responsibility. The media, yes, fourth estate of the realm. Yes, you are the watchdog. Yes, but while you are backing, somebody's attention is also being called to your backing. Do it right. Help government. You have a duty also. You have a duty also. So, as a legislator, what do? I make the law. That's our number one responsibility. And then oversee the implementation, of the laws that we make through programs of government and what have you, as legislators. That's our role. And we are doing that the best we can. We are living before the end of the Islam. You ask me a question, is going out. I also stop there. Next question. No problem. I thought ECOWAS is just for students sitting exams. I didn't know that it applies also to journalists. So your first question again. Your first question. Posture of northern politicians and southern politicians. That's a division between them. Well, I start with that one. It is a pity that there should be such conflict, such a division. But the division line, again, did not start with my generation of politicians. It started from the amalgamation. Right from amalgamation. There have been discontent. There have been disagreement between our politicians. Right through to independence period. There was a disagreement between northern leaders and southern leaders. These are not new. And this is in the blood, man. It's in the blood. All right? What I grew up to see or to hear or to read, my father did. If the logic, the education I received is such that I can comprehend the position my dad or my grandfather took, the chances are, if they are positive in my sense of judgment, I follow suit. All of you here, when you go down to your public square in your various villages, when the elders are talking, how many of you can talk? With the exception of those who are money men, money they talk. Who are you? Okonkwo has placed 1 million on the table. He has a right to talk. Who are you to say no? All right? There are some of those. And there are some places that look, a very seasoned person, a learned person in Islam or in Christianity, a clergyman, they have said this, we can't say more than this. Who will say no? So every part of this country, there are some characteristics that are unique. But in spite of that, when it comes to the national level, we have a way of aggregating our differences. That did not start with me. It didn't start with me. It didn't start by me. It's only started with my generation. When there was the independence motion, people threw stones at northern political leaders in Lagos. Threw stones at them. Yelled them. Disgraceful passions on them. I grew up to read this. Why did they do so? For they are daring to say, we are not yet ready for independence. Why are you not ready? I asked myself. Not ready because they were late in going to Western schools. When the South, East particularly, were producing people with PhD, we could count on our fingertips how many were going to secondary school at the time. And we have to run the same country. We have to go and compete for the same opportunities. And so I saw logic. They're not ready. You can't force them. So this kind of thing started from that time. And nobody will pretend you just can beat your chest. Now I'm the governor, or I'm not the president, I can change everybody's mind overnight. It is not doable. Like I gave an example a while ago. Even in America, to date, there are things that have been following them in their democratic practices. It's a trail. Up till tomorrow, a president of America will say, oh, he's from the South. Till tomorrow. Or he's from the North of America. All right? We started what? In 1960. Who knows independent? When did America become independent? Who remember that day? Over 200. Over 200. About 230 something now. Yes. We're just 60 what? 60 what? Answer now. 61 plus. 61 plus. And we tend to judge ourselves and give ourselves greater value judgment for progression in democratic thinking and norms and practices. We are not being honest with ourselves. Yes, it's a desire, it's a wish that we've gone beyond the point we are today. I wish that's the same thing. But is it practicable? Is it practicable? When do you want a government where everybody will have a stake? I have in this family somebody, at the time you can't blame the generation for not starting in time. You can't blame anybody. It's a historical fact. You can't wish it away. So, those of us who are privileged must protect those in our school of thought, where we are. Just like you feel justified to want things to happen your way. So, it's a give and take. And you don't achieve anything by shouting on rooftops. You have to get together and talk. Common sense. Be cool and discuss it. We understand ourselves better. Also, you can't do this. Who are you there? Who dare you say you can't do what? You have no power over what I do or don't do. This is we have got interest, we've got rights. You have a right to shout on me and say, I can't do this. I have a right to say quietly, I can do it. So what? So this didn't start with our generation. And it is my hope that there will be better understanding. It is my hope that between the northern and southern politicians, there will be better understanding. And that's why you, the media, I see you having a very, very, very unique role. I remember very vividly the pre-independent period and the immediate post-independent period. The role the Nigerian media played. The Nigerian Civil War. The role the Nigerian media played. Why is that not now the case? Why is the spirit no longer the same? I ask you. The second leg. Yeah, what about it? APC. Why APC? Become an APC senator? All right. I hope my answer to you is constitution. Constitution. Nowhere in the Nigerian constitution that I have, that I read almost every day like my Quran, there's nowhere that they say I should zone any office. There is talk federal character. That is the constitution. Abi? Where? Who tell me the section of the constitution that says parties must zone their position for presidential election during general elections? Who has seen that section? I want to be educated. Now, the constitution is being reviewed now. If you want a review, and you want a provision specific that provision, what do you call it, presidential offices should be zoned in such a manner. You tell us how you want it zoned. This is just going from one zone to another, or what exactly are you wanting the amendment to look like? You see, you can't just wish away a situation that is fundamental to the life of the country. You can't wish it away. You can't wish it away. You can't talk of merit and talk of zoning simpliciter. You cannot do it. All right? The Constitution, when I was privileged in 1977-78 to be a member of the Constitutional Assembly that wrote the 1999 Constitution as amended now. And we gave it all the thought possible. Most of the First Republic politicians were alive then. People like Aminu Kano, J.S. Taka in the north, Makambi Makambi in the north, Isa Keita in the north. They were all out there. Right? Some of the prominent emirs, Rotimi Williams of blessed memory. We used to call him the law. It was an institution, the law. Keomba Adue was there. Right? Okezi was there. This guy who was secretary of Eastern Nigeria regional government, Odoji was there. Melfort Okilo was there. You can call them. They were there. And the issue of rotation, let's just go by merit. Let every party find a way of selling itself in a manner as to garner the kind of vote that will deliver the presidency itself. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. You can't say, oh, just in American Constitution, you see any zone in American Constitution? Any zone in American Constitution? Are we more democratic than America? Or in Greece, where the democratic state started? Are we more democratic than them? It's a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Why do you want to change it? Wishful thinking only. Why not being practical? In England, there are colonial masters. Right? Is there any zoning? Who is doing Kule here? Any zoning in the UK? With all the Wahala in Ireland? With all the historical facts between the English and the Scots and the Welsh? Have you heard of anything zoning? The British Prime Ministership? Or the Queen is the head of state? The Constitution has been like a fixed, a recurring decimal. They were colonial masters. You want us to just say, okay, zoning what? How do you zone it? Yes, somebody is saying the East has not had president. I agree, and I sympathize. All right? But the Constitution says you can only become president through the ballot box. And we have been stated time and again that when we have election, every vote must what? What do you want to zone? How do you want to zone? Zone your mind if you want to continue zoning your mind. I hope I've answered you.
Yes.
Thank you. I have no other answer than to probably emphasize what I said earlier. We have chosen a democratic system of government. True or false? And the democratic government can only be elected, can only be established through election. True or false?
True.
Now, if every vote is to matter, if the opportunity for the presidency is to be for all and sundry, at a given time. Why would I want to promote a setting where in a particular given period are just testing the opportunity, the right to contest for presidency in a part of the country and give another party the monopoly for it? So far, no time, no year that I know has anybody said, look, only Southerners can seek the presidency of Nigeria, or only Northerners will seek the presidency of Nigeria. There is no such a time. The political parties have the last card. They are registered. They are recognized by the Nigerian Constitution. They are recognized by INEC. If you have got any other platform on which to come and contest for president, well, yeah, do it. But as far as I know, there are political parties, and the right to field a candidate rests squarely on the political parties. That can't go beyond that point. And I believe that any party that is fielding a candidate must have the issue of merit in its mind, the issue of fairness in its mind. That's how far we can go.
As the chairman, Senate Committee on Agriculture, just a few weeks ago, the president actually sacked the Minister of Agriculture, Sabo Nanono, for underperformance.
You are not calling the name correctly, so I don't answer you.
Sabo Nanono. The former Minister of Agriculture, being the Senate Committee Chairman on Agriculture. What is your take on this sack of this minister? Then secondly, the food crisis, the looming food crisis in the country. As the Chairman Senate Committee on Agriculture, what are you doing about this crisis?
Okay. The Senate Committee Chairman Simon on Agriculture does not appoint ministers. We can only screen a minister. All right, and where you don't have the power of hiring, you have no power of firing. Only the president have those powers. So that question should be directed there and not here. That's my answer to your first question. The second question, yes, I agree with you. There's a threat of food crisis emanating from 2-3 factors. The first is the effect of insecurity. The second is the issue of COVID-19, now Delta and whatever. And the third, availability of money to government to be able to finance certain programs that will enhance, food production in the country. You cannot deny the fact that this president, Muhammadu Buhari, has, since assumption of office, emphasized the need to diversify the Nigerian economy. And one of the areas to go in the diversification is the issue of agriculture. And as far as I know, there's so much effort that this government is giving in the issue of increasing agricultural production. Unfortunately, while the government was doing this, COVID-19 came on. You remember there were periods when there was complete lockdown. You remember? Lockdown. Only last year. Lockdown completely. You found lockdown when you are supposed to be working on the farm. You couldn't go to your farm. You couldn't go to the farm. The transporters who commute across the country, delivering agricultural inputs, fertilizers, seeds, herbicides, and what have you, couldn't move around. They couldn't deliver as and when needed. And as if all that is not enough, the banditry came and worsened our situation. In this northern part of the country, farming became almost impossible in some states, some local governments. Farmers couldn't go to their farms. And that definitely has got effect. Up till today, most of our agricultural production is manual. Government is just now trying to mechanize operation towards automation. Using tractors, using modern farming implements, to do our operation on the farm for agricultural production. We have not attained the level yet, unfortunately, given the population that we have to feed. And as a result of this, the quantum of production naturally will fail. This year, in spite of the pessimism, this year we thank God, the rain season has been very, very favorable. We've had good rains, and the indicators in the fields are that we're going to have a bumper harvest this year. But there has been a shortfall. And for us to have enough to make up for the shortfall from last year, and then, get onto the right level for this year, there are some challenges that we're expecting there. But I think for some very careful planning, we will be able to accommodate the hardship that's been expected, and we will overcome it, with more thorough planning, with the resources that are available and with the quantum of production that we're expecting for this year's harvest. How many registered members do you have on this corps? Senate corps, press corps. And how many of them, even though you are supposed to be one gender in the media, but how many of them are naturally left and how many are naturally right? It's for you to say who is on the right and who is on the left, Abi. I just said, how many are on the left, how many on the right? 87. How many are on the left and how many on the right? You can't be. No. No, when your chairman say you are failed, so
I thought they have not failed. I have failed. Maybe they could bail me out.
All right, bail him out. Sorry? Pardon? Well, you see, I did say I'm trying to justify the level of sensitivity in my gender friendliness. So I wanted to know how many of your members are naturally not you, and how many are naturally you. Am I making any sense? Yeah?
60-27.
Which is 27? The left or the right?
The left is 27. Men, 60. The right is 27.
For the entire membership? The he is what? 60. Okay, look. You can see why we are failing. On a serious note, what justification is there when you talk of equality? I have only 16 she's 27 out of 60. What justification there? So charity begins.